guys are 5th graders, and today we're going to be doing a 5th grade lesson over ecosystems and how human infrastructure and human civilization can affect those ecosystems. So right here up on the board, we have this wonderful ecosystem. It's a forest. It has a huge population of deer, raccoons, and field mice. And so the plantation in our, or the plants in our ecosystem are mostly trees and shrubbery. And so we're going to talk about how human infrastructure can affect wildlife. And so now going right through our forest is a highway. And so this was a forest that was untouched by humans for a long time, and then all of a sudden there's a highway going straight through our ecosystem. And so we're going to talk about how this highway could affect our deer population. So one way it could affect our population is the deer population will decrease because of the dangers crossing the highway. Or option B, the deer population will remain the same because they will just migrate further into the forest and away from the dangers of the highway. So for option A, we're going to be on this side of the room. Option B, you're going to be on this side of the room. And so once you get with your team on the side of the room that you choose, you're going to have a few minutes to discuss why you picked this side and discuss with each other, and then we're going to have a discussion and a couple of rebuttals. All right? Ready, go.
Just migrate deeper into the forest and away from the highway.
I've just never heard of like deer population going down because of roads. Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that is their current home, so it would be really hard for them to understand that they need to move away until it was, they learned.
It would take them a while, yeah.
Until they learned. And the only way they could do it is
but anyways.
Either you learn or you don't.
Class?
Yes.
All right, so do you guys feel good? You guys kind of all on the same page with your team? Okay, so everybody, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to start with option A. What is your justification for choosing option A?
Well, I just kind of said I feel like it would be hard for the deer to automatically understand that there's a highway running through their home, and so they would definitely have to learn through experience that this highway is a dangerous thing. Like, they don't know right off the bat until they experience it, and so I think that there will definitely be a decrease in deer until they could realize that maybe we should move away from this area.
Okay, very good. How about option B? What was y'all's justification?
I mean, we said yes, they would have to learn, but also they repopulate really quickly. So, like, even though some of them will definitely be like hurt because of the highway, there's just going to be a whole bunch more deer, and they're just going to keep repopulating.
Do you guys have a rebuttal?
I definitely feel like that's true, but at the same time, like, how will they be able to just automatically move away and repopulate? If there's a highway running through their home right there, like out of nowhere, I feel like it'll be really difficult for them to even be able to repopulate because they're just gonna get hit by cars.
We said that we've never heard of, like, I mean, I'm from Oklahoma and I've never heard in Texas either of them shutting down deer season because too many deers have died or there's not enough deer to be hunted. So if the state parks, which monitor the deer population, are still keeping hunting season over, it's clearly not enough of a problem. Like, there are roads all over everywhere, you know, middle of the forest, middle of fields. And I mean, I've almost hit a deer before, and it wasn't even in a forest, it was like, here's open land, and a deer just comes trotting across the highway.
So wouldn't you think that would make it more, like, harmful because it's going straight through their actual home and not just in some, like, actual, like, busy road all the time? I mean, they're just plotting this down in the middle of, like, where they wake up every morning and have their little families. So I feel like it would be quite a culture shock for them. They wouldn't know how to adapt.
I think it'd be more likely for them to get hurt in this environment rather than like in a neighborhood or something.
They learn pretty quickly. Like deer are pretty dumb, but like they're still like intelligent creatures. They still learn like to stay away from certain areas because it's a hunting area, and the highway could have a fence on the
And I
side
think,
that
like,
will help.
also, those highways got made sometime where there were already deers, and there's still deers, you know? So,
I think all animals have instincts, so they know that you need to move elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then they need to move elsewhere, so.
And if it's just a road, it's not like 1,000 cars are passing every second. You know, like they could easily make it across if they had to. Like even if a car was coming, they could just run a little faster.
The only thing though that I will say is once they build a highway, there's more to come. They're not just gonna build a highway and then just leave it steady. They'll build a gas station so that people can pull over and get gas. And then that will create more human population. That will create, I mean, so many more factors into the situation that I can't even like exponentially think of. But for the most part, I really think it would decrease the population just because, I mean, culture shock, I mean, yes, like they have instincts, but they have to gain that instinct from experience, like from experiencing a large population decrease, like that kind of thing. So. Anybody at the back table? Don't have anything?
I kind of agree with everything Shelby was
They're
saying.
kind of like in the middle.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I could go both ways, but I definitely think at first, like initially, deer will experience a depopulation, and then maybe after they learn, then they'll learn not to go in the road. Or stay with them and keep their babies out of the road.
I think Shelby brought up a really interesting thing. She said like a road is just like the beginning, you know, because then there's going to be gas stations and then more civilization's going to come. So as more civilization develops, do you think the deer will still remain there, or do you still think they would migrate if it was more than just a road?
Yeah, they'll definitely migrate. I mean, we've seen it happen with other species and animals, so they'll learn to that they have to migrate, and they've already done it in lots of places before. So
Yeah, I think the highway is just like the first step of it. Like, I think like Brooke said, it'll be a immediate like decrease, and then as more, you know, human resources are added into it and like it grows over the years, I think they'll eventually, like Katie said, use their instincts and like readapt. But I think it's a process.
Any last comments that anybody wants to throw in? All right. So today I can discuss with my peers the different ways human infrastructures can affect the wildlife and ecosystems. Thumbs up if y'all got that. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So I did a 5th grade science lesson, and we used argumentation and debating over a science topic in the classroom. So what the students discussed is how human infrastructure affects wildlife. And so this scenario that I gave the students was there's a large population of deer in a forest that is untouched by civilization. And then all of a sudden there's a highway running right through this forest. And how would the highway affect the population of deer? So the two answers that the students had to pick from, so the first one is the deer population would decrease because of the dangers of crossing the busy highway, or option 2, the deer population would remain the same because they would just migrate deeper into the forest and away from the highway. And so students were able to pick a side and then debate which one they thought and argue with the other side to further their point and why they chose that side. And so the two types of thinking that were used, the students used, was analytical thinking. The student was able to analyze and compare and contrast their ideas with the other students that had picked the other option. And then there was also practical thinking, because the students were able to relate this to personal life, because we do live in Texas and there's lots of deer population here in Texas, especially in small towns, which some of the students were from, and so they were able to personally relate to this scenario and how deer migrated in and out of towns and stuff like that. They were able to relate to this and they were able to support their answer through their personal knowledge. So the TEAK that I used was a 5th grade standard. It's predict the effects of changes in ecosystems caused by living organisms, including humans, such as the overpopulation of grazers or the building of highways. And so that's the scenario that we used. I kind of dissected that TEAK and applied how human infrastructure can and does affect the natural wildlife, and the students were able to pick which one they thought was more accurate, and then they were able to debate and discuss why they thought that. And so the lesson went really well. I feel like the students really used their personal experiences with deer population for their practical thinking, and then they were able to use analytical thinking as well to compare and contrast their thoughts with the other students.